Welcome back to another UFC fight prediction video. In this video, I'll be predicting the main card fights for UFC Fight Night, Uzdemir versus Smith. And it looks like we have a pretty lengthy main card. 6 fights on the main card. I think some of these fights are actually going to get pushed down to the preliminary card. Some people might fall out of fights, but as of right now, there are 6 fights on the main card, so I'm going to predict 6 fights on the main card. And I'm going to start from bottom to the top, so let's just get on right into the predictions. So in our first fight, we have in the welterweight division, Alex Garcia versus Court McGee. So Court McGee, veteran, Ultimate Fighter winner, been around a minute. Alex Garcia, been around a decent while as well. Not as long, definitely not as long as Court McGee, but he's been around at least 2 or 3 years now. So Garcia, both of them have some experience in the UFC. Court McGee, certainly more. But Court McGee, I feel like he's been kind of stuck in the mud for a very long time. I think he's kind of needs to update his style a bit. I think it's too stiff. Maybe it would have been better like 10 years ago in the UFC when everybody was kind of more square, but now you've seen a lot of fighters kind of just breaking out of that shell, and their stances are slowly, or I guess even more rapidly now, getting less square. A lot of people implementing like karate styles or more loose type of boxing styles, whereas Court McGee has that kind of like very outdated square stance where he just kind of fights moving forward and backwards with his striking, keeps his guard very high, and he fights very square. So he pretty much smothers his own jab, doesn't really limits his own strikes, makes everything telegraphed, but he gets by because he's durable, he has cardio, like phenomenal cardio, and he's well-rounded. But that stance and stuff is just like really holding him back. I think his whole style kind of holding him back. He needs to kind of loosen up and maybe change some things to his game, but it's been like he's really has failed to adapt and evolve. It's been the same fighter for too long, whereas the game has been evolving constantly around him. Now he's fighting Alex Garcia. Alex Garcia is somebody who also needs improvement, but I think Alex Garcia is a much more evolved fighter. I think he's faster, he hits harder, he brings more arsenals of strikes. He's less predictable. Well, everybody's pretty much less predictable than Court McGee when you're fighting that square. Everybody can tell what you're doing a mile away. You're smothering your own strikes and telegraphing your own strikes. So I think in this fight, that's pretty much going to be the tell of it. I think Alex Garcia is going to be the go around Court McGee's guard. Though Court McGee is blocking or having guard high, if you're just having your guard high like that, somebody can just go right around it with some big shots. And Alex Garcia has some huge, powerful hooks that he can definitely implement. He'll have a significant speed advantage. I think the only thing Court McGee will have is the cardio advantage. I mean, maybe a technical advantage as far as like the grappling, the overall, just by being experienced and stuff, and been around a lot of high-level opponents and high-level training partners and that type of experience that he'll have over Garcia. But as far as their styles and what they bring, I think Garcia will be able to pretty much pick Court McGee apart, use his speed, use his strength, use his athleticism. Court McGee probably be the better grappler, but I feel like Alex Garcia has that strength that he'll be able to, I think, actually win the grappling exchange, or at least negate them if he wants to, like not be caught up in like Court McGee trying to hold him against the cage, or Court McGee trying to stall and wall and like what's called dirty box, wall and stall and stuff, and I'll try to lay on him with a takedown. He'll be able to defend the takedowns, circle off the cage and land some big shots on Court McGee throughout the fight, use movement, use speed, use power, find those open and use setups and all that stuff so they can land those big shots. And I see him stopping Court McGee in the second round. So in this fight, I have Alex Garcia via second round TKO. Then on to our next fight, we have in the light heavyweight division, Gian Villante versus Ed Herman. Ed Herman, another long-time veteran, been around since what's Tough Season 3, long time. And you can see in his age, he's 37, so he's been around a minute. I think he's been in UFC definitely, I would say, over a decade. If I had to wager, I think he's been in the UFC for a minute before I was even really watching like MMA like that. So he's definitely been around a huge minute. But as far as his style goes, I think he started off as more of a wrestler, grappler type fighter. Then I think his striking got a little bit better, but again, the game has passed him by. I think his striking is okay, it's decent. Nothing to write home about. Grappling, nothing to write home about either, but he's able to, at least with that experience, being well-rounded, being a veteran, having that knowledge and stuff, he's able to at least hold his own with, I think, most people around his level as far as with the striking. With the grappling, he could deal with a lot of grapplers and stuff and negate the grappling, maybe give somebody some go in the grappling. But it's not going to be something that's going to usher him up anywhere in the division. I think somebody like Gian Villante, maybe they're around the same level, you would say, but I think Gian Villante will be the stronger man. He's a bigger fighter. I think he has he has a bit of a wrestling background as well. It's not like he's just some person who just came from football. He wrestled as well as he did football, so he'll be able to, I think, deal with Ed Herman's grappling, be able to negate the takedown, and I think it will turn more into I say an MMA match, like an MMA striking match, I would say. Like, it's not like where they just be striking, purely striking, and there'll be some clinch exchanges. But for the most part, it's really gonna be like an MMA striking match where it's gonna be primarily playing against like on the feet. Maybe some clinching when somebody gets hit hard, or maybe to try to wear the other fighter down. There'll be some clinch exchanges. But for the most part, they just be the winner of this fight would play out for who can handle himself best on the feet. I think Gian Villante can handle himself best on the feet. I think he's the younger fighter, bigger fighter, more explosive fighter, has more power. Ed Herman never really had like consistent power. He has power here and there, or maybe if he can land a shot clean, he has power, but he doesn't have that consistent power. I think Gian Villante just has consistent, heavy hands. He's a more explosive fighter. He's a more athletic fighter. He's a younger fighter, and all that stuff is on his side. I think more I just see like a late stoppage for Gian Villante. I think he's going to wear Ed Herman with some big shots. Eventually, he's going to take him out in the third round. So in this fight, I have Gian Villante via third round TKO. Then on to our next fight, we have in the bantamweight division, Andrei Sukumtov versus Jonathan Martinez. Jonathan Martinez is a UFC newcomer. This is his UFC debut. Sukumtov has been up and down in the UFC, but a very talented fighter. If his mental game could match his talent, he could go far in the division, but that mental is definitely holding him back. But as far as this fight, I think Jonathan Martinez is a very well-rounded fighter. Okay striking, like he's very slick on the ground. But I think Andrei Sukumtov actually isn't that bad on the ground that he'll be able to defend the takedown and make it more so of a striking match. I think Andrei Sukumtov is just a superior striker. He has been facing the better competition. He has been in UFC for a while, and he's soaked up some of that knowledge. He's been in good camps, been around good fighters, so he has had a much better experience. I think he'll use that in this fight. Make this fight a more so a striking fight. Try to keep the grappling to a minimum. And I think he'll be able to pick him apart on the feet. And I see a late round stoppage, like late stoppage in this fight. So in this fight, I have Andrei Sukumtov via third round TKO. Then on to our next fight, we have in the light heavyweight division, Misha Cirkunov versus Patrick Cummins. So Misha Cirkunov at one time was looking like the best prospect in the light heavyweight division, but that fell off after the Volkan fight and then the Glover fight. So we don't know where he's really at right now. Still a talented fighter. Still has a lot of chances to come back from these losses. And as far as Patrick Cummins, he has had up and downs as well. He came to UFC highly touted. Was supposed to be, some people, like, there's one video going around the internet where they call him the next John Jones, even though he's older than John Jones and really not even half as talented as John Jones. But he came to UFC with a lot of hype as well. Had his up and downs, but he had some good wins. He had some bad losses. But he's been facing the best competition in the UFC's light heavyweight division. So it really comes down to who wants it more in this fighting, because it's a good matchup. Neither of them are really the greatest strikers. It's really both people who rely on grappling. I think Patrick Cummins is actually the more tougher fighter. He's taken more damage. He's been able to enforce his wrestling on similar opponents. They fought similar opponents in common. Like Glover Shepard was able to easily just take Cirkunov down and just get him, flatten him out and TKO him, whereas Patrick Cummins was really out wrestling Glover Shepard, but Glover Shepard was able to defend the takedowns eventually and then get him on the feet long enough to take him out. So I think in this fight, Patrick Cummins will be the better wrestler, grappler in this fight. Misha Cirkunov might be better with submissions, but I doubt he'll be able to get any of those submissions off his back. I think Patrick Cummins will be able to push the pace because he has that wrestler's type of grit. On the feet, Cirkunov will certainly have a chance. They both don't have the best striking, but Patrick Cummins has that weird striking. So I think Cirkunov will be able to pretty much land the better shots on the feet. But I feel it's going to come down more to grappling. It's going to be who can endure more, and I think that's going to be Patrick Cummins. He's going to be able to make Misha Cirkunov embrace that grind, like enforce grappling wherever he needs to, where it's in the clinch against the cage or on the ground going for takedowns, making Misha Cirkunov work. And I feel like Patrick Cummins will be able to break Cirkunov down. And I feel like it's going to be a 3-round decision. So in this fight, I have Patrick Cummins via decision. Then on to our co-main event, we have in the featherweight division, Michael Johnson versus Artem Lobov. So at first, Artem Lobov was supposed to fight Zubair Tukhugov, but you know, the whole UFC 229 brawl, and Tukhugov hit Conor McGregor, so he might not even be in the UFC. So it's a fight right now, but he's definitely off this card. He may not be cut from the UFC yet, but he's off this card. Michael Johnson steps in. So as far as this fight goes, this is a striker matchup. Michael Johnson was already a top 10 lightweight. Maybe doesn't really implement wrestling too much, but more so striker. Artem Lobov definitely just relies on striking. Like they both can implement grappling, but they really both would prefer to strike. So I guess they're both at least sort of somewhat happy in this matchup to have these opponents, whereas they don't have to train too much about worrying about getting taken down, and you can just focus on striking. So I feel like Michael Johnson is the faster fighter. He's the better fighter, the longer fighter, the rangier fighter. Artem Lobov does have power, and he does know where to put it. But I think Johnson just going to be aware of that and not really give Artem Lobov too much to counter off, because Artem Lobov has those little stubby arms, so he can't really just hit nobody with no jab, especially Michael Johnson. He's going to have to kind of come in or maybe try to catch Michael Johnson when he's coming in, maybe because Michael Johnson does fall in with that jab and he can catch him like that right hook. But when you're relying just on one shot, I don't think it's going to really land. I think Michael Johnson has shown to have a solid enough chin. Never really been knocked up in TKO, but never really been knocked out like that. I think Artem Lobov's going to be landing enough or land that shot. He's going to be looking for that one big shot. And Michael Johnson's going to be able to use his speed, use his footwork, and just tag Artem Lobov up. And I see a second round TKO after Michael Johnson keeps hitting with all those volume and all that speed. The speed, the technical ability is going to counter the power, and the range is going to cancel all that power that Artem Lobov has, all that little bit of explosion he has. And I see, like I said, a breakdown effect, and then that big shot or that big combination landing in the second round. And I see a second round TKO for Michael Johnson. Then on to our main event, we have in the light heavyweight division, Volkan Oezdemir versus Anthony Smith. So Anthony Smith is on a tear right now. He came up to the light heavyweight division and destroyed Rashad, then destroyed Shogun, and now he was on the cusp of getting a title shot, but I guess Gustafsson got injured, so now he's still in a good position. If he beat Volkan Oezdemir, he could be right in the same position, maybe get like the next title shot or maybe the second title shot, maybe the third, but he's in a good position. Undefeated at light heavyweight right now, 2-0, beat 2 former UFC light heavyweight champions, but definitely fighters that aren't where they once were, fell far from where they used to be. Now, Volkan Oezdemir came in the UFC on a tear, kind of had that close fight with OSP. Then he had those rebounds where he had one on a 3-fight knockout streak. Well, actually, it was like maybe a 2 or 3 fight knockout streak. But he definitely went on some streak. He was knocking everybody with these little weird punches, like the shortest punches, like from the shortest distance, just touching you on the side of the air. Everybody was going to sleep. And it was like he became that boogeyman for a second in the light heavyweight division. Now, Anthony Smith is kind of that boogeyman. He's been knocking like these former great fighters out like it was nothing. But as far as this fight goes, these are two fighters who aren't past their prime. They're both, I guess, as far as their careers go, they're at the best points of their career right now. Despite Volkan Oezdemir losing to Daniel Cormier, he's at the best point in his career. Anthony Smith is at the best point in his career. And it's not going to be the same as with those, like, past their prime fighters or past their shelf. They're aspired fighters, I would even say at this point. They aspire. They need to reinvent themselves or something, but they're aspired. Rashad retired, and Shogun had a good little streak, but he's definitely not Pride Shogun or even Championship UFC Shogun. He's not any of those people. So as far as these fighters, they're fighting two people who don't have that much tape and aren't that old, aren't that worn like their fights. So you can't really rely on Anthony Smith's past fights. As far as their styles goes, Volkan Oezdemir is a bigger fighter, a younger fighter. I mean, as far as compared to those fighters he fought before. But let me get back to the topic because this could definitely stray off too much. I think Anthony Smith has shown the issue to deal with hard-hitting pressure fighters, and Volkan Oezdemir is that. He puts more pressure on you than Thiago Santos does, especially at least in the first round. Volkan Oezdemir really is like a first-round fighter that kind of has to rely on that first round to either finish you or at least do so much damage on you that he can deal with you in the second and third. So he will definitely put more pressure on you than Thiago Santos does. I think he presents more power, like threat with the hands, whereas Thiago Santos presented more power with the kicks, at least compared between those two. I think Volkan Oezdemir is definitely going to be able to, with that Dutch kickboxing style, he's going to be able to get in Anthony Smith's face. Anthony Smith showed had a weakness against pressure fighters, especially pressure strikers. And I think that's what Volkan Oezdemir is going to do in the first round. I think it's either going to be a quick fight or a long fight. If the fight goes long, Anthony Smith has a chance. But if this goes like the first or 2 rounds, I see Volkan Oezdemir stopping Anthony Smith. And that's kind of what I'm going to lean to. I think Volkan Oezdemir is going to be able to get in Anthony Smith's face, not like necessarily rush like a Shogun would do, but like no pressure, chop that lead leg up with low leg kicks. Kind of coming over top, maybe throw some feints in there, just get in his face, but not rushing in that you get caught with a counter. Come over the top and touch Anthony Smith. Because you've seen him get touched in several fights. I think the Mutapik fight, he got touched a lot. The Hector Lumber fight, he got touched a lot. The Thiago Santos fight, he got touched a lot. Those against pressure fight. And Hector Lumber is like, 5'7", and he's able to touch him over the top. So definitely somebody who's 6'2", like Volkan Oezdemir, is going to be able to touch you and knows how to range and had that kickboxing background, that Dutch kickboxing come from the gym he comes from. With, Henry Hoof. He's going to be touching Anthony Smith up a lot. So I see So in this fight, I have Volkan Oezdemir via first round TKO. And that concludes my fight predictions for UFC Fight Night 138, Oezdemir versus Smith. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and come back for more videos. Peace.